On March 9th of 2026, David Syzmanski's Iron Lung will be 4 years old. On January 30th of 2026, Markiplier's Iron Lung movie will be in theaters. I figured now would be an appropriate time to revisit Iron Lung and talk about what makes this short little indie horror game so great, and also talk about the movie for a bit. When I first played Iron Lung, I had no idea what I was getting into. I hadn't seen any Let's Plays, hadn't seen any spoilers from anybody. I just knew that it was really scary, and it was short. And it was only $5. So one evening, I sat down and played it without having any mental preparation for the next hour that would be filled with some of the most paranoia and dread that I have ever experienced while playing a video game. Iron Lung was created by video game developer David Syzmanski. His games tend to utilize a retro PS1 or N64 aesthetic. You may know him for Dusk, Gloomwood, Squirrel Stapler, or Chop Goblins. I'm a big fan of Dusk, and somehow I went the longest time without knowing that he developed both Dusk and Iron Lung. I really want to talk about Dusk, so maybe I'll do that in a future video. There are a lot of reasons why Iron Lung is so scary. It's claustrophobic, stressful, and filled with little things that gain a heightened fear factor because of the state of dread this game puts you in. By the way, if you're noticing the little green blob of text in the corner, somehow when I was recording the footage for this video, I didn't realize you could turn that off, and then I recorded like 3/4 of the video and then felt like an idiot. It's so annoying, but please don't make me re-record it. I don't want to play this game again. The atmosphere in Iron Lung is so unbelievably uncomfortable. It's hard to explain. I'm usually pretty good with horror games. I'm not really that jumpy. Usually if I get jump scared, I just get really angry. With Iron Lung, I struggled. This game is so insanely good at building up fear. The game is just under an hour, and in that time, the atmosphere slowly gets more and more tense. You operate the submarine with 4 buttons. 2 to go forwards and backwards, and 2 to rotate. You also have a map and a little navigation device that will tell you whether or not you're about to run into a wall. You need this because you can't see anything. The only way you can see out of the Iron Lung is by taking pictures, which is why you're down there in the first place. On your map, there are coordinates you have to find to take pictures of the depths. The world of Iron Lung is fully 3D modeled, so anytime you take a picture, you're taking an actual picture of the actual map. There's a great video of a guy going out of bounds and taking a closer look at this 3D map. I'll link it below. In Iron Lung, you play as an unnamed convict who is promised freedom if they survive this expedition. Spoiler alert! They don't. And judging by this letter that you can find in the submarine, the convict sees the hopelessness of this situation too. This is not an expedition. It is an execution. The establishing text when you first start the game states that the mission takes place just after an event called the Quiet Rapture, where every known star and habitable planet vanished, leaving only those who were on space stations and starships. For the expedition, the convict has to explore the bottom of a blood ocean on an alien moon. One of the later updates of Iron Lung added the COI information terminal, located at the back of the sub, so players can learn more about the world of Iron Lung. I'm not going to talk about that much in this video, but there's plenty of others that explain the lore really well. Also, there's a wiki. The first thing you see when booting up Iron Lung is this, immediately establishing the expansive ocean of blood, as incredibly ominous music plays, composed by David Syzmanski himself. Then, after you start a new game, you are presented with these 8 sentences. Immediately, you can tell this is going to be a dreadful experience. Every single word here has impact in establishing the horror of the Iron Lung. There was no time for training. I think the detail of having to be welded inside because the submarine wasn't designed for this depth is already horrifying. Throughout the game, the submarine slowly breaks. It can be incredibly frightening when a pipe bursts, when you lose oxygen, when at one point the submarine randomly lights on fire. All of these events don't sound that bad on their own, but considering the state that Iron Lung puts you in, they can be incredibly frightening. Operating the Iron Lung requires an insane amount of focus and precision. The map is filled with tight corridors and places where it's incredibly difficult to tell if you're going in the right direction. The gameplay is already tense, so having things go wrong really makes them much scarier than they would be if you weren't having to concentrate so hard on operating this thing. Like I said, I'm not a jumpy gamer, and while playing Iron Lung, I jumped 3 times. A big jump right at the end, but we'll get to that. The introductory sequence to the game, following the opening text, really adds to establishing the isolation of the Iron Lung. You begin with a slow descent as a voice communicating with you about the descent gradually loses connection.
We're starting to lose radio signal. You'll be at cruise depth soon, so receive and be careful. You're on your own.
Immediately after descending, we can see all of our buttons for navigation, the depth, a sealed off front window, and our oxygen levels. If we turn around in the Iron Lung, on the right side is a fire extinguisher, and a few paces forward, we can find the unnamed convict's letter on the ground. Directly in front is the button for taking photos, and to the left is the monitor to see said photos. To the right is the COI information terminal I mentioned earlier. Now that we're familiar with the interior of the Iron Lung, it's time to actually start our journey. If we open our map, we can see all the different coordinates we need to navigate to. The nearest one is coordinate X322, Y186, A33. Before we go to these coordinates, I want to show off something kind of interesting and scary. Walls are resembled by these little blinking dots. If you run into a wall, it looks and sounds like this. It is so loud. On my first playthrough, literally the first thing I did was run into a wall. I think this technically qualifies as a jump scare. Anyways, first coordinates. This one's the easiest because all you gotta do is navigate up and to the right and a little bit down. Rotate the angle and take your picture. At this point in the game, you are now mostly familiar with the gameplay mechanics. The Iron Lung navigates slowly, so it's difficult to be precise since you can only press one button at a time. Anytime I was holding a button, I was locked in on the navigation screen. A little flashing light on a screen can be a jump scare if you're fully immersed. The next couple photos are about the same. You just focus on navigating the submarine, trying not to run into anything. Sometimes in Iron Lung, you have to go through a really tight corridor. So you have two flashing lights. I actually ended up crashing into one of these. For me, the navigation in the game appears to be such a daunting and kind of overwhelming task, but when I was actually doing it, I became sweaty pro gamer. The navigation is very imprecise, but I found it to be satisfying, despite how incredibly stressful it is. Iron Lung does a great job of making you invested in your character and invested in the mission, despite the fact that the story isn't very complex. David Syzmanski did add some stuff to the story when he added the terminal to the game, but I don't really think it adds much to how personally investing the game is. The daunting but still achievable task is just enough to draw the player in. Me. The player is me. Throughout Iron Lung, there's a lot of small, very well-placed events that are meant to frighten the player and increase their gradually building paranoia. It feels like everything is slowly falling apart, and there is literally nothing you can do about it. Pipes keep bursting, oxygen levels keep dropping, and your my paranorman keeps building because you don't know what's gonna happen next. On your way to this set of coordinates, this happens.
Oxygen notification.
This is a scripted event, but as a player, you don't know that. And then a little after taking the third photo, this happens. These on their own may not seem like jump scares, but in the context of the game, they certainly can be. I really think it depends on the person playing and how immersed they are. But for me, I definitely got a little frightened. At about halfway through the game, the submarine just randomly sets on fire. You have no way of knowing this is going to happen again, so it builds even more paranoia. All of these little events are here to add to the tension you're already feeling, and they're all building up to a pretty crazy final release. Release! Water bucket! Release! Playing the final moments of Iron Lung is one of the most stressful experiences I've ever had while playing a video game. You'd think it would be less terrifying the second time around, but this game's control scheme and overall feeling of hopelessness really makes you feel like you have no idea what you're doing. My palms were sweating, my anxiety was through the roof, everything was going wrong. Also, I just finished getting the photo at this set of coordinates on the map, and it's one of the most intense because this happens. The entity you can hear throughout this part makes such a stressful sound, and once you get the photo of it, it shoots you out of the cave. The final set of coordinates is all the way in the top right corner of the map. It's kind of a huge pain to navigate to, especially considering how at this point in the game, it feels like everything is falling apart and the Iron Lung is being held together by a string. When you initially enter the cavern leading to the final set of coordinates, this happens. That flashing light isn't a wall. It stays there pretty much the entire time you're navigating to the final spot. If you're me. I looked it up, and apparently if you take a photo while this is happening, you'll see a monster eye, and then the Iron Lung will get bumped into and fill with blood. In my playthrough, I had no idea you could do this, but the Iron Lung still filled up with blood anyway, because of the part of the game I was in. It was kind of sneaky. It kind of sneaked in there. I'm not sure if it's more obvious in other people's playthroughs, but it might have kind of just popped in there while I was busy struggling with very basic math. X600? No, that's too close to the edge. Oh wait, the 580 is safe.
This is too much pressure.
As you get closer and closer to the final coordinates, the blood rises more and more. I'm realizing the blood rising isn't as sneaky as I thought it was. And then finally, you get to the final set of coordinates. X6... Leave me alone! X675. Y828 A295. Iron Lung is a game that slowly builds paranoia and dread. Frightening sound effects, getting chased by a monster, slowly deteriorating the Iron Lung, and the mental state of the player. I think I pretty much covered everything I wanted to talk about. Oh, the movie! As of when I made this video, Markiplier's Iron Lung movie is going to be released in theaters everywhere on January 30th. The final trailer is out, and it looks so cool. I'm so unbelievably excited. I believe a while back, Mark said that the movie got the world record for most blood in a horror movie, which is insane. Also, apparently David Syzmanski is going to have a cameo in the movie, which is really cool because he made the game. Is the Iron Lung movie going to be good? I'm pretty confident it will be. When Markiplier showed some behind-the-scenes footage in his I didn't think this was possible video, I got really excited. I already kind of heard about it while listening to the Markiplier episode of the Chuckle Sandwich podcast, and it was exciting then, but seeing the behind-the-scenes for this set is probably the most excited I've been for a horror movie in a very long time. Watching Mark be so overwhelmed with emotion in that video gives me a lot of hope, because it shows just how genuine of a person he is. I think that no matter how good the adaptation of Iron Lung is, it'll still be worth watching because it's made by people who genuinely care about the art of filmmaking. Mark Fishbach has proven himself to be a very talented actor and filmmaker, and it looks like he's doing this mainly because he's just really passionate about it. And I think that's really cool. Alright, bye guys. See you later. That was weird. Why'd I do that?